Thank you for tuning in to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Esquivel. Here at the Failed Podcast, we focus on failures and challenges that our guests have experienced, along with the lessons that they learn. Our hope is that you learn something new, and if you're facing challenges, maybe one of our guests can encourage you to keep going. Through the power of conversation and asking the right questions, we hope to leave you with insight and wisdom that can help you face your challenges and failures. On behalf of the Failed Podcast, thank you for listening. And now we want to welcome our guest, Cristain Alva. There we go. How you doing, my man? Welcome to the Failed Podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here, of course.
We are so glad to have you. I'm watching you. I met you seems like a few years ago, and ever since then, I've been keeping an eye on you. Everyone that comes on here, I'm kind of like spying on. I'm watching what they're doing on social media and everything. And so I see what you do, and you're working on a lot of things, and we'll give you a plug here in a bit. But if you had to sum up what you're doing right now, how would you sum that up?
Like work-wise, what am I doing?
Yeah. Here's what I wrote. All things social media or digital marketing.
Yeah. So,
along with your job, obviously, but that's what I wrote down.
Well, definitely intertwining those two things. I'm a title rep for Byers and Taylor, title and escrow. So it's boring. Title's boring if you're in a house buying process, but it's super important.
Yeah.
And so my job is to add value to agents and people in real estate. And
yeah, there you go. So if you're listening and you're in the game, man, you know you got another person here that you can add.
Send me some contracts
to your network. I don't know what that means, but I'm pretty sure it's a good thing. And so we're going to put all your description below.
Awesome.
As far as what you do and how people to get a hold of you. And at the end, I'll touch on it just a little bit because we all have a story. That's what I want to share about your life and your journey. And so here we focus on failures and challenges because I feel that we learn so much from it. Now we know how to share it and it gives a lot of value to our lives, but I like to zoom in a little bit on here at the Failed Podcast. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're just going to go through your life, man. How many pounds did you weigh? And I'm joking. When you were born. All right, tell me a little bit. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I was pretty.
4 pounds. Yeah, there you go, man. Don't be jealous if probably I was like a 10-pounder.
Hey, I made up for it as I got older.
So it's all good, bro. 4 pounds, that's good, man. Okay. So tell me a little bit about growing up, where you grew up, a little bit about what you went through personally in your home life, and then we'll just go on this journey together.
Yeah, so grew up in Bakersfield, California. It is the worst part of California. My wife was we met in here, but she was born in Orange County, so I tell her I'm super jealous of where you were born. And my father-in-law still lives in Orange County, so we go visit sometimes. But grew up in Bakersfield, like I said, born and raised there, family's there, just been there forever. Grew up in the church.
Yeah.
When I was, maybe 8 or 9, my uncle and my dad started a church, planted a church. And so it was really, really just all about that Christian life.
Yeah.
Oldest of 6 kids. And so
big family.
Me, 4 girls, and then my baby brother who was born when I was 12. Wow. And so huge family.
Yeah.
So
now you said you grew up like Bakersfield and how did you name it? The Central Valley. I guess if you know California, you know what he's talking about. I really don't know, but you said it was rough, right?
Yeah, Bakersfield's a crazy city. It's actually I don't know if it is now, but I know over time, several different times, it's been the homicide capital of the country.
Yeah. Anyone famous come from there? Like, because there's always these rappers and stuff from California.
So there's Brian Welch, Korn.
Okay.
Korn. He came from there.
He signed the guitar for me once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I know Brian
Welch. He's from there. Buck Owens, old country artist. Shrine made up to him. Some other people.
Yeah.
The good ones do try and get out of Bakersfield.
I understand, man. I mean, you left too. So, growing up, I know from firsthand experience, growing up in a tough neighborhood where, people look at it a certain way. It's a bit rough, but that's all that we know. So we kind of learn how to survive in it. And sometimes we can overlook the challenges that an area like that brings. But do you remember some of the challenges of living in a community like that brought, maybe some failures in your life or some challenges to you or your family that you remember now that maybe it's made you better?
Yeah, I think again, didn't grow up like in a super terrible spot. My parents always did a pretty good job of keeping us safe. But I remember in sixth grade, I think I was sixth grade, I went to this junior high that was a little rough on the east side of town,
Yeah.
and it was interesting because I never did anything. I never got involved in anything bad. Never
Good, good.
interested in drinking or drugs or games or things like that. But friends around me who were really good friends of mine or close friends at that age, I remember just sometimes you go to school and you're just like, oh, so and so's not here anymore. Where they go? They're in juvie. Or as I got into high school, friends die. Some got shot, some were
Yeah.
out drunk driving, whatever. And so I would see a lot of that stuff and just kind of be around it. And just a part of me that was always grateful, just like, oh, wow, I could really slip into some of these things,
Yeah.
but not letting it actually define who I am. Like, I won't sit here and say, oh, I grew up in the ghetto and that's why I was ghetto when I was a kid. Like, no, I
Yeah.
grew up in
Yeah.
some rough spots sometimes. And I decided, like, I don't want to be like that. I
Understood.
want to take the other route
Yeah.
and be a little more chill about my life and not give in to the stereotype.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I don't get the whole gangster vibe from you now. So for sure, I get what you're saying.
I
And
tried to
so
sag my pants one time, and my mom was
you
like,
must slap them back in
and
place.
I'm 5'5", so I'm like, what am I doing? My
Yeah.
legs are short enough. I can't do this.
That's funny, man. There's a story of someone in my family that they got an earring and it literally lasted for a day. And the mom ripped it off. It was so funny. The mom, well, not my mom, it was my wife's mom. But anyways, it was one of her brothers, and she tells
Put
me
them on
I just
blast.
laugh, man. Yeah. Okay, so growing up in high school, obviously challenges and stuff happen. What's your home life like at that moment? In a minute, I know that you played baseball. You were sharing with me. We'll get into that in a minute. Kind of lay the foundation of what was going on around you in your home and with your close friends.
Yeah, so I'll say my life drastically changed. I think when I was maybe 12 or 13.
Yeah.
My grandpa, who was just a patriarch of the family, passed away from cancer. And I would say that it kind of sent everybody in the family spiraling.
Mm,
Everybody differently. My parents, my uncles, everybody's kind of, it took a big hit, right? He was just the man of the house, of the family, and all that. So that kind of happened at sixth, seventh grade, maybe. Um, and
uh,
everything just kind of became a little unstable. I know my parents started going through marriage stuff and issues on their end, and we had to see, unfortunately, a lot of that. For me being the oldest, I was super nosy. So I was a kid that was like, oh, mom and dad are fighting. Let me go put my ear to their door and hear what they're saying. Which is the worst thing that you can do because you hear things that you're just not supposed to hear.
you don't
You
understand.
don't understand. You don't have context. You don't know what's being said or why it's being said. So you start to take sides of, well, dad said this one thing, therefore he's all wrong. Or mom said this one thing, she must have messed with
Mm,
him. Whatever, right? And you have zero context. And so that that kind of began a trend of just our house. And again, like I said, big family, six kids. I'm the
yeah.
oldest of all of them, so weird little like I want to protect them, and I don't know what I'm doing. 'Cause I'm a child, and at the same time, being a teenager, you're still going through changes. You're trying to become a teenager, and you want to be
Yeah.
an adult, and all this stuff. And so there was a weird conflict in the family where marriage issues were happening. Um, my grandpa died. I'm growing as a teenager. And yet we're still trying to be Christians. My
Yeah.
parents are still like, hey, we're going to. I know we might have messed up. I know we might have gone through this. I know it's not what the Bible condones, but we are not leaving our faith in God, which
Yeah.
was awesome now.
Yeah.
But back then, conflicting. We're just like,
What you were seeing, what you were
it
hearing.
wasn't lining up with everything. And again, hindsight's 2020, so I'm really happy they stood with it. But in the time, it was just like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to believe in God and push through and pray and all this stuff, but it doesn't seem to be working.
For your parents, that's a hard thing. I mean, same here for a lot of people. They share in that, and one of the downfalls of not sharing our failures and challenges is that people think they're in it alone.
Yeah.
And so because they think they're in it alone, they keep it inside and they're like, oh, what's happening in my home? It's private and man, we're so different. Everybody else is perfect. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do here is like motivate people to say, you know what, you're not just the only one who, your folks are one way or I'm one way at home and I'm one way out in public. And you have to deal with those personality conflicts
Yeah.
as a young person. You don't understand them. And then you see the repercussions of it later in life and stuff. And so that's why I when our guests share things like that so people can relate.
Yeah.
Your grandfather was the patriarch of the family. He passed away and you were in sixth or seventh grade. So you have knowledge of what that was like. You weren't like a kid. You remember. So let me ask you this. A lot of people listening are experiencing death. And in the past 3 years, a lot of people have passed away and people have had a hard time dealing with it. Tell me some of the challenges that you faced when he passed away that kind of affected your life.
Yeah, so he was my best friend. I think he
Yeah.
made everybody feel like they were best friends. But he was, and I remember just being
Yeah,
a
at a
kid.
table, you're like, oh, he was my best friend.
Yeah, that's how
Oh,
it
he was
felt.
my
Yeah,
BFF.
he told me I was his
I was the
favorite.
BFF.
And so like we that happened. He was diabetic. He has a whole story in and of itself. But around that age, he got cancer, and so I saw just as a kid too, right, the deterioration of
Yeah.
him, of his body. I remember just seeing like, oh, he's got a cane now. He's in a wheelchair now.
Yeah.
All these things are happening. He's falling, like just sad stuff, really. And then I was in the room when he died. So I saw him take his last breath. So I saw the immediate family's reaction. And so that was just, I think, traumatizing in the sense of it just sent me inward.
Yeah.
After he died, I remember not crying. I held my dad, hugged everybody that was there.
Yeah. You were the older sibling, so you said, I got to be strong. I got to be strong.
It's how it felt, right?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen my parents like cry up until that point, and just not. My grandma was crying. She was juiced up, and she passed away a couple years ago. But after that, I went and watched a Laker game, and I sat there for 3 hours in his office watching a Laker game and they lost. I remember that. But that was my response, was just like, oh, I'm going to sports. I'm going to just go hide here, and I think I just kind of took that into a lot more of my life. Of just when issues happen, I will face them, but then I'm gonna kind of just isolate myself and just be like, I'm gonna watch a game, or I'm gonna go play something, I'm gonna go work out, or
Now, with the experience that you have now, and you think of a 12 or 15-year-old having to go through like losing a grandparent or a parent, what advice do you wish someone gave you back then, or how do you wish like someone would have guided you through that, those few first hours and maybe a few months later? Like, what do you wish that someone would have helped you with?
maybe just maybe somebody would have came and said, hey, like we need to talk. You need to talk about it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put you in therapy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you in counseling. You need to talk to somebody about this. And I think my parents offered that, but I'm saying, no, I'm not gonna do that. And especially in the church world I was involved in, it was like, don't go to counseling. You don't trust God. But
That's for another day.
yeah, that's a different podcast.
That's a different
But I think going through that, and even like I pastored as I got older and did some different things that we can get into later. But talking with kids that went through stuff, just like, hey, like it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk about it. You don't have to be tough all the time. You can be tough when you need to be.
Yeah.
But being tough doesn't mean you suppress your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe.
And just talking, like it doesn't even have to be a therapist. Like it doesn't have to be specific. Like I'm the authority. I'm talking to you. Sometimes just find someone to talk it out. And what needs to come out comes out in conversation. And a lot of people, they close off and then they deal with this pain and they hide it. And from what I've seen, it shows up at some point. You could, what they say, pressure bust a pipe. And at some point it shows up, and no matter how tough you were. And so I want to transition because it almost lines up perfectly whenever you started. And you started playing baseball young, but around this age, I guess you started developing more physically and you realized that you had a talent for baseball. And it led you into traveling and playing a lot of baseball into high school. Was that kind of part of the hiding it, since it was kind of around that time?
Yeah, I think it's intertwined.
Yeah.
I think intertwined a lot. At the time, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna go just play baseball. I'm not thinking about this, but I think it was a pretty good escape. Like, oh man, I'm looking forward to the Tuesday, Thursday nights. I get to go play, or Saturday mornings. I get to play. And it became the little part of my life that was like, oh, I'm happy I get to go. And then you're good, right? And so like, not that I was amazing, the best. Obviously, I didn't play pro or anything, but when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I get to go pitch. I love pitching. I get to strike people out. I get to get a hit. I get to do all this stuff. So it was my own little part of my life where I was like, I get to succeed here. no matter what home life looked like, no matter if I was grounded that week or I was in trouble or mom and dad were fighting or whatever,
Yeah.
I get to go do this and be successful at it most of the time.
And you played baseball all the way up to high school, and you were pretty good. Tell me a little bit about your playing baseball and what that taught you, because it's hard to be like to be a pitcher and then you lose and having to deal with like, man, I failed the team or so on. How did you deal with those things at such a young age? And
So
how fast were you pitching at
not
your
fast,
fastest?
not very fast. Very very good location. I mean, I'd be lucky. Yeah, not. I'm not going to tell you how fast. It was not fast, but I had a really really good curveball.
Yeah.
And I would not. My accuracy was just on point. I didn't miss. So the major leaguers I looked up to, Greg Maddox, Tom Glavine, people that didn't throw that hard
Yeah.
for major leaguers, but their accuracy was perfect. My idols. Um, Doing all that. The emotion, yeah. So there's one thing that really sticks out to me that happened when I was a freshman, and I was pitching, and I had like a really bad inning, and I came into my dugout, threw my glove. I was mad, right? I was angry. Threw my glove. I probably yelling. I went. Didn't nobody talked to me, right? I walked to the end, and I probably looked ridiculous. I was even smaller then, but I was mad. And my dad comes over to the dugout because in my whole life, the hundreds of games I played, he maybe missed one or two.
Wow.
He was always there.
Yeah.
And so he comes over. He's like, "Hey, like, what's your problem?" And I'm like, I'm passionate. I want to win. And he said, no, he said, you're not passionate. You're emotional.
Mm.
And I was like, well, no, same thing. He said, no, no, no. He says, you can be emotional when you're passionate, but passion controls your emotions. And ever since that, like that stood with me forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, I can get excited. I can get mad, but I can't let that overtake me because if I'm passionate about it, then I care enough to discipline myself about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
so,
passion is almost like the long term, and the emotion is the present.
yeah,
And it's just like remember the long term. Like you can screw it up in the present if your emotions get out of control.
exactly.
It's a great life lesson.
Yeah, so that helped me through not only baseball but through a ton of my life when I
Yeah.
felt like I messed up or failed. And it's just like no, like I can still just keep going forward as long as that passion stays there.
Yeah.
Because then the discipline will follow and the emotion comes and goes, like highs and lows like everybody else.
Yeah. So you go into high school, like you said, high school changed a little bit. Now, it wasn't just staying out late and riding your bike far away from your house. Now people were drinking. There was probably a few people that passed away, friends and stuff, because of the type of school you were at. What Something happened where your family had a transition from California to Texas. Talk to me a little bit about that challenge, like what led up to it, how you felt, and then we'll jump into, when you came down to Texas.
Yeah, so I think it was high school time, right? Go through all that, and it was actually I didn't really get in trouble. I think the first time I ever got suspended in high school was my senior year, and it was because I was trying to fight some guy, so I was dating his ex girlfriend, and so it was just stupid stuff, and you kind of go through all that, and so I graduate, and my parents are still just kind of going through their things. Like nothing ever really got better within those 4 or 5 years, right? They have their ups and downs and all that. And I don't know. I still to this day don't know all the details. But by that time, I stopped putting my ear to the door to find out. So I don't know all the details of what happened or what exactly led up to cause.
You were in your room saying, "Quit listening to me."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, leave me alone. Get your ear off my door. And so again, I graduated for 6 months, and it was after that time. I graduated on the day of my graduation. I found out that my girlfriend at the time was cheating on me. And so as I'm getting ready, I get a phone call. Hey, why is so and so, with this other guy doing such and such? I'm like, oh, that sucks. And I'm like putting on a tie, trying to go graduate. And so I go through all that emotion. And so that led to June till December of just dating around and, just trying to find the next person that liked me, just to have my fun and do all that, not really caring, working a little bit. And all that. And so we came to January of, so all that was in 2020, 2010 when I graduated. 2011, January 2011, my dad comes and was like, hey, we're moving to Texas. Do you want to come with us? And I was just like, well, yeah, because my life's in shambles here and I don't have any prospects in Bakersfield. I don't know what I'm doing. And 2 weeks later.
Do you think if your girlfriend wouldn't have cheated on you, would you have stayed?
I don't know.
Because I feel like, man, when I was that young, when that would happen to me, it's so devastating, bro. I was ready to go, man. I was like, Mom, Dad, we should move.
Why aren't we moving
we
somewhere?
should go. So, I mean, it's just a funny thing. There's sometimes, like, okay, so we fail and we face challenges in life because maybe 2 or 3 instances happen that just don't work together, man. So
Yeah.
they throw you off and then it leads down your next failure. But you wouldn't have made it if these 2 things didn't occur when they happen. And it's just good. I don't know. Like if you're watching, it's good for you to know before you make a big decision what's going on in your life, and maybe 2 or 3 things just happen that are motivating it. And so that means slow down.
Yeah.
And once those things fizzle away, you may not be making the same decision. And so I'm just curious, man, was the broken heart like the country song? Like, I gotta go, I gotta hit the road, man.
I think enough time had passed where that wasn't
Okay.
affecting me. If it was initial, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I will say this, my wife's gonna hate this if she listens to this, but
It's in the past, long time ago.
yeah,
long time
15
ago.
years ago.
Long time ago.
So during that dating around time, like I'd always tried not to like sleep around. I tried to wait, I'm Christian, right? Whatever that means, pushing the boundaries of that even. And I met this girl I really liked, and we like became really good friends, and like we liked each other, but never did anything physical. And I wanted to ask her out, so I was just kind of talking. I knew she liked me, and then she shows up one day. She's like, "Hey, my family's moving. We're moving out of the state." And I'm just like, "Oh, my one person I like is leaving. That sucks." And like,
strike 2.
yeah. So she left, and then a few weeks later, I was like, "Okay, well, we're leaving." And I think if she wouldn't have moved, I probably would have stayed.
Yeah, and
Like,
so it's
I
just
liked her that much.
it's just crazy, man. For us, like it's important to pay attention what's going on because it could throw you off of your decision making, and it's worth acknowledging it so that you can kind of let that pass and make better decisions, and we hit less speed bumps in life.
Yeah,
right?
I will say this though, I am glad everything that happened.
Yeah,
Because Texas has not been easy the whole time.
yeah.
But when I look at it again at 30 years old, I say, oh, like, no, I'd rather be here.
So when you came here, all my friends that come from Cali, they always talk about the pricing, the cost of living, and they're like they have more milk and cheese and eggs now and they're here than they did in California.
Sure.
Did that like surprise you when you came here and you saw the prices and the way things were?
Not till I was older. I was too young.
Oh yeah, your parents were buying the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was too young.
And so okay, so you come to Texas, you're single, you're with your folks, you're starting a new life. Starting anything new, it brings challenge, whether it's business, whether if you're creative and it's a podcast or whatever. Starting something new it's exciting to start it, but get ready, man, because the challenges and the lessons are coming. Tell me what happened when you came here. What was the new environment? What did it bring into your life?
It was a nightmare. Like, I'll just be honest, it was crazy. So
where'd you end up when you first came?
Yeah, we ended up staying with an uncle and aunt of my mom's, who she had met like one time.
Yeah.
We have no family outside of them here, right? They're technically our family.
Yeah.
And
like you came to Fort Worth or you came to another city?
To Keller.
Oh, okay, you went to Keller.
Came to Keller. And so we load up 2 trailers. Well, we had a big house in California, so we sell a ton of things. We load up 2 U-Hauls. We bring our cars. And my dad owned businesses. He made good money. We did all right. And on the way over here, like I'm driving one of the F-250 and he's driving the Excursion. And I don't know how to pull a trailer, but I'm pulling our life in that U-Haul back there.
It is windy on the way over.
It was snowing. And so we got through like New Mexico or something and it was snowing. And at one point my dad pulls over and he just like walks out in front of the car, like on the side of the freeway. And, or like not the freeway, but one of those roads. And, he just stands in the snow and I'm just like, what's happening? Like, do I go get him? Did mom? Are you gonna go get him? And he's there, and he would later say like he was just praying, he was talking to God, trying to like, what is he doing?
He's probably watching you on the mirror, saying, "This boy doesn't know how to drive this trailer."
Probably. He's like, we need a break, but he's also realizing like, oh, what if we're moving my family? Like, this is risky. And so we get to Texas, and I kid you not, Sam, like the second we pulled up to the house to park the cars, it felt like God's grace lifted off of our life. And it was like not in a bad way, but like in a, oh hey, I got you here. Time to face those demons. Let's do it. So we're living with family, 8 of us, mind you, in like a 3 or 4 bedroom house with a married couple, and they have 2 kids. And so we're all crammed in there. We don't know each other. There's personalities clashing.
Yeah.
My dad decides that I don't really know what the decision came down to, but he leaves his business. So we have no money. We're living off whatever savings they have.
Yeah.
And we do that for a couple months there before we get ourselves again.
Your dad must have been bored. He said, "You know what? I need some challenges in my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
I
Well,
quit."
he could have went and started working out or something. I don't know. Learned how to play guitar maybe. Um, and so we do that for like a month or two. We stay with them, and then we end up in a townhouse, a little 3-bedroom
Yeah,
townhouse in Watauga.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
that's where you went to school,
I
or
was done with school.
you were done with school. You're here. What's going on in your life now? Now you have to take on a job. Now you're becoming a young man. What are some of the challenges that you face now? Now we're getting closer to you now.
Yeah,
We're
so
coming to your later life.
I we got involved at this church, started interning and doing some stuff there. I started working at McDonald's and I worked at Kroger and all kinds of places that I didn't want to work at, so I would quit pretty quickly. McDonald's, one day I went in and I called in one day. I was sick, actually sick, not like lying like I did sometimes. But I was really sick and I called out. So the next morning I went in like at 5:30. I'm working the drive-through. And it's early. I still don't feel good. And my boss comes up to me and says, "Hey," he's like, "What's with your bad attitude?" And I'm like, "Man, like, I don't feel good." Oh, he was like, "You're sick yesterday? You're still sick today?" And I was like, "Yeah, a little bit, but I'm here." And he's like, "You need to be happy like so and so. They always have a smile on their face." And I like, it's 5:30 in the
You look
morning.
over, they're smiling.
Yeah, and I'm just,
You ain't
I
lying.
take off my little McDonald's visor and my little McDonald's tie,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, "Here you go." I threw it at him and I walked out.
And you quit.
I went home and hid from my dad. I was terrified that my dad was just going to be mad. He's like, "Why you quit? You're being
Yeah,
lazy."
work.
All this stuff. Yeah, you need to go work. He big believer. He has a great work ethic.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the beginning of like, oh man, like I gotta start making money. Don't like McDonald's,
Yeah.
but I don't have any other skills. I didn't go to college, and I'm starting to realize, oh hey, I probably should have taken school a little bit more seriously. Probably should have developed that work ethic, but it was also really hard to work for $7
Yeah.
at McDonald's, and so
So that's a challenge.
yeah,
Like to be okay with who you are.
yeah,
At that moment, wherever you're working, and I respect the working man like 100%. So
absolutely,
I'm not knocking on no one, but so you're looking at your job and it might not be the job that you think like fits you well. You have to decide at that moment, is this just the job that I'm going to have and make the best of it? Or do I have the ability to grow and become better? What did you decide? Did you go work at Sonic? Like,
man, I kind of,
yeah,
I hopped around from job to job,
yeah, yeah.
and at that time, the church I was involved in, um, they were super about being in the church all the time.
Hmm.
Hey, you need
I
to work at the
understand that
church.
culture.
Yeah, very, very much that culture. Work at the church, almost like you're not saved if you're not working at the church. But by the way, work at the church for free because we actually can't afford to pay you.
Yeah.
And so it was working all these weird. I worked at, this would be embarrassing for me, but I went from like McDonald's to Kroger to Smoothie King to Target, Staples. Like I worked all these jobs. And back then when I was a kid, I was super shy. I didn't like talking to people. Public speaking, I never would have done. I'm in like sales, kind of now business. I would have never done that back then.
Yeah,
So
to see you now, I wouldn't expect that you at your younger age that you were shy
I remember going on a date with a girl when I was like 15, 16, and I didn't want to go ask for barbecue sauce for her at the counter because I didn't want to talk
yeah,
to the cashier. Like I was terrified of
yeah.
talking to people. And yeah, so at that age, I was just like, well, I ended up getting some weird outside product sales job,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, okay, I think I can do this. And the church helped. Like I'll tell this story, helped break me out of my shyness. I'm so grateful for it. And this guy that I was interning for is a pastor, and really, really good street evangelist, like
Hmm.
a people person though, not a weird street evangelist.
Yeah,
And so one day he's like, "Hey, come out with me. I want to like meet some strangers. We're gonna pray for people and stuff." I said, "Hey, I'll go with you, but I ain't talking to nobody."
yeah,
All right, Christian sounds great. So I'm with him. The first thing he does is go up to this group, and I'm like 19, right? He goes up to this group of girls, and he's like, "Hey, my buddy Christian wants to talk to you about something," and he walks away, and I'm there, and I'm just like, ah, God loves you. I gotta
yeah.
go, right? I didn't even know what to say.
Yeah,
But after that, the realization set in. It was like, oh, that's as awkward as it can possibly be, and it was.
yeah.
I can do this.
You gotta jump in sometimes.
Yeah, he
Like
threw
if
me
you
into
want
the
to
deep
break
end.
away from some bad habits, you gotta jump into whatever the opposite of it is.
Yeah,
And it's gonna suck, but it might work. It might teach you something about yourself, and
yeah,
that was the trigger. And then I guess since then, like to me, you're pretty, you're not shy. You're on social media, you're talking and you're teaching classes. You're in front of people now. So that dude is long gone.
yeah.
And in life, when we have failures and challenges, it's an odd example, but we got to kill our old self to give life to our new self. And so it sounds like that day you killed a little bit of yourself, and that was quiet, and then now you're a little more extroverted. And so, what did it teach you? Because here's why I'm saying this: people can sometimes be embarrassed about where they work or where they used to work. Okay, I mean, I had jobs like that as well. Who hasn't? That's the thing. But what did it teach you? Being in those places that, maybe you weren't making a lot of money, you don't need, your skill set can be very low, your responsibility is low, but there's still lessons that you gain from there. What are some lessons you gain from all those jobs that you use now?
Yeah, I think I just learned how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Learn how to talk to people and still learning like, hey, be more disciplined in your work, even on the days you don't want to work. Learn how to do that. Don't quit. Don't throw your tie at your boss and say I'm out of here at 5:30 in the morning. Right? You learn some of those
Poor
things.
guy.
Yeah.
He's like, God,
Probably. I think he's still there.
another kid left.
I still buy cheeseburgers from him sometimes. But I think learning that stuff, and to be honest with you, Sam, it wasn't until like maybe a couple years ago, I always just had this thing that was instilled in me by the church, which I'm not super happy about it,
Yeah.
but it was like, oh, I need to become a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I need to become a youth pastor. I need to become this whatever pastor.
Yeah.
And so it was pushing through these sales. I ended up getting some sales jobs that I like, product sales that I enjoy, doing that kind of stuff, being in my car, doing all that stuff. Learning again how to talk with people, how to persuade people, how to communicate with different personalities. And so I did those type of jobs until my wife and I ended up youth pastoring for a few years at a small church in Keller, and then we ended up getting a church out in California that was a pretty good sized church that hired us, which was great, right? Dream
So
come
you
true.
went back to California
For 2 years. Yeah, basically COVID years, which was terrible. No timing.
way.
Yeah. So I was there for I guess about a year, and then COVID hit, and then it was locked down in California, trying to figure out how to. So the church I went to is a fantastic church. If you're ever in Hanford, go to Koinonia. It's amazing. A pretty good sized church,
I know
and
the word Koinonia.
it means fellowship.
Yeah. A friend of mine was a long time ago. Told me that word. He was trying to do something wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, and so
Rabbit trail.
Funny thing about the church, it's called Koinonia Fellowship Church, so it's fellowship church.
I know.
It's, I'd always make fun of them for that.
My daughter, she calls one of her grandmas Hola. So when she calls her, she says Hola, Hola.
That's awesome.
I'm like, hello, hello. And for you that don't know Spanish, she says Hola, Hola.
That is great. That's good.
So you were there 1 year, no COVID, and then the last year, that's when COVID happened.
And California was locked down, man.
Oh, I know. Texas was moving. I mean, it was still bad, but it was moving.
Yeah, it was, and then our church, they just abided by all the. We had some churches that were like, we're gonna do our own thing. Mm-hmm. Our church abided by whatever the government said, and so we were just went full online, full social distancing, trying to figure it out right, and respect all that, and I admire my pastor for that. I didn't always agree with him then, but I'm just like, hey, you know what? He was doing what he felt God was asking him to do. Yeah. And I can't get mad at that, right? Like I'm going to honor what I'm honoring. And so that year was tough, man, because we ended up having a baby. My wife and I had our first child, and locked in the house. Then we had a roommate living with us with her daughter. And so that was supposed to be a 3-month process. That ended up, she lived with us for 18 months, I think. And so it was.
And close quarters. You couldn't go anywhere.
And so it became toxic. And it was rough, man. Like my wife and I went through it, fighting, arguing. At one point, towards the end there, it was just, I was unraveling, just to be honest with you, like having a hard time. And that's kind of what led to leaving, the decision to leave. That and family was here. But I remember being on the phone with the doc. My wife was like, please talk to somebody. Like, please, like you're losing your mind here. And I said, okay, I'll call the doctor. I'll call whoever I got to talk to, right, counselor, whatever. So I get on the phone with this doctor, and I'm talking. He's like, all right, tell me what you're feeling and all this stuff. And we get to the end of it. He was like, Christian, he's like, you have the worst case of anxiety and depression I've ever seen. And I literally laughed. And I was like, my response was laughing.
And you laugh, and then you go into a cry.
Yeah, I started
crying. You're so right.
I literally was just like, oh, that's not good. Like that, I didn't know how to take that in.
It's crazy that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
And everybody got to know each other more than ever.
Too much.
And the damage that it did, I feel like the more people that I talk to on the Failed Podcast, I haven't focused in on those years but I think I'm going to because
COVID exclusive or something.
yeah, because that dude. I mean, I feel like it was because of that year and being in there with the other person, their kid, your wife, and then your newborn. Like, dude, that brings out the worst in everyone,
Yeah.
and it brings out the best. And how does that even mix? And then there's no separation. Did your doctor tell you, like, was he seeing cases like that because of like how close?
I think at that time maybe people were starting to realize it.
Yeah,
Like he didn't tell me that specifically,
yeah,
but I think because it was still new, fresh, and kind of locked down, everybody's trying to figure it out at that point. And so, and again, it's no knock on who my roommate was. Like
no, no.
she was great, she was a good person, like all that stuff. It was
But nobody's that great 24/7.
yeah. You
We
literally
need a
see
break from people.
you see the ins and outs of everybody, and so went through that, and on top of it, I think realizing like, oh man, I got this job, they pay me a salary. I'm in California. I love closer to the beach. I love the beaches, so like I could go to the beach at any time. Um, all this stuff, and I realized, oh dang, this job didn't fulfill me the way I thought it would. All these years, right? All my teenage years to my 20s, all this stuff was leading to I'm gonna get this job, and I'm gonna feel closer to God than ever. I'm gonna be the best man I've ever been.
And looking at it from the outside, it looks like, man, that's a dream job.
Yeah, especially as a Christian, right? And you're taught that in that culture. And leaving that, it was just like, oh man, I left there literally just being like, I gave more into vices. I was I never felt further away from God. I wasn't being a great husband. I wasn't being a great friend. I was being more lazy, especially with COVID. Like it was easy to be lazy.
Yeah.
I gained a bunch of weight. I was just all these negative things, right, that I started grasping to because I felt like, oh, I'm working at this church, so I have to be good all the time. I can't share my real things. And I'll be honest
And
with
then if you do have, don't lose your train of thought.
yeah,
And if you do have vices, when you are trying to be a certain persona, dude, you learn to hide them very good.
you
Like,
have to.
no, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just like, it doesn't help the situation. At least if people see it, they can be like, okay, it's a little, you're going a little overboard. But if they don't know,
Yeah.
it's a monster.
And then I didn't give anybody. I was like, no accountability for me. I'm not giving anybody access to
Yeah.
tell me anything. Yeah. My wife would try and tell me something like, hey, and I'm just like, nope. Now I give her, hey, you can tell me whatever you want. If it goes too far, if I'm ever doing anything now, I'm a way healthier place now. You have freedom to go tell my parents. You have freedom to go tell your parents.
Yeah, get some help, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
not being it by yourself.
And I'll say this, and this again, man, no knock on this person, but one of the people at the church, and one of my coworkers and everything, when I first got there, and the church is all about be family, right? We're family, you're part of the family, all this stuff. And we were talking, and I criticized somebody. I honestly don't remember what I said, but I remember being like, oh, this person, blah blah blah, right? And I wasn't trying to be mean. It was literally just about a job.
Yeah.
And their response was a harsh one, and they said, well, I feel, Christian, like you're trying to attack my family, and I had to defend them, which made me know right then and there, I'm not really in your family.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I can talk about my brother, and we're still family. I can fight my brother.
I've argued with my brother.
Family. Yeah, I can snap at him, and I have. Like, and I go back, hey, I'm sorry, we're family. I love
See you
you.
Christmas, bro.
Yeah, and sometimes parents like, you guys figure it out. Or they'll get involved in, hey, we need to solve this thing. But when this person said that, and that was pretty early on in my job there, I was always felt like, oh, I will never fully be inside because I wasn't born here. Yeah. I didn't grow up in this church. I'm an outsider that came in, but I thought we were a real family, and we still had a good relationship. Everything was still good. I didn't really like hold that again, but it made me know they probably can keep me at arm's distance, and then it made me want to keep them at arm's distance. So I didn't feel comfortable telling anybody any of my struggles that I was feeling. And so you kind of just go through that and move on. But it was a weird realization when I got back over here when we decided to move back, and I was like, I don't know what to do next. Yeah, because that was always the dream.
And then now you're doing a lot of social media. You're helping people grow their business. You're learning and you're teaching. It's great, and you're a creative. So first, I want to say thank you for sharing everything. You were little up to now. For sure, you faced a lot of challenges, and to be where you're at right now and chasing what you're chasing, I think that's an example of switching your mindset. You know what I mean, and then choosing a better path. So now I'm going to hit you with some questions to see how all of this has change your thinking for the better.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. These are the tough ones, bro. The other ones were easy because it's just your biography. Okay.
All right, let's go.
This is the mind, body, and soul. Here we go. All right. What are you most proud of in your life so far?
That's a good one.
Pass. You can pass. No, I'm joking.
Can I say like learning how to be a father? I didn't know how I was gonna be a father, and it was funny because
How old is your daughter?
I have a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old.
And a 10-month.
Both girls.
Man, yeah, you baby.
Yeah, and they're a blast, man. And I remember my wife was pregnant, and I think my dad, talking to my dad, didn't jokingly, he's like, I can't picture you as a father, and I was like, I can't picture me as a father, you know. And then they're born, and it's just like, oh no, like I will do anything.
You got the Bichon, and you're like,
yeah, I got it. And you know, for the first one, you know, it was rough on my wife. It was really rough. It was a good pregnancy. It was a rough delivery.
Yeah.
The doctors were pretty bad, and so when the baby was born, my wife was, you know, she went through depression and sad, and I connected with our firstborn like the first 6 months really well, and so we're
postpartum depression is real.
Oh man,
and husbands and obviously wives and families, you got to be sensitive to that, and if you feel like it's happening, get some advice and get some help. You never want to leave your wife or a new mother feeling alone. It's the worst, bro. So. But go ahead. I just wanted to put that PA out there.
Well, she was a little lucky not going through that, but her job required her to go back to work.
Oh man, that's good. So moving.
And I was at home working from home with the baby, and so you know just connecting with that. So I'm really proud of like the father I am. Not that it's not overwhelming a lot, but it's just like no, like man, these kids are amazing. I just can't imagine my life without them.
Yeah. What do you hope to achieve in your future?
I would love to either create a full-on social media marketing company or just marketing company to help people grow their business. Even if that's just including like I still keep my day job, but doing that and then not only people in real estate, like small businesses or mom and pop shops, and on the side too, my sister and I we own a snow cone shack, and so I would love to just get really creative and add value to people. Because as you know, social media is an amazing resource. It's big. It's all that stuff, but it's also I think a lot simpler. Not easy, but a lot simpler than people think it is. You can learn what work to actually do.
Absolutely.
And so that would be one of my goals. And then to travel around and speak and teach some of these things or stuff like that.
Love it. Yeah. What is the most important lesson that you've learned in life?
Keep moving forward. You have to. I mean, there's so many times that you want to stop and all that stuff, but you have to just keep moving forward.
What do you think is the key to happiness?
Submission. I think whether you're choosing to submit to God, if you're a believer, like I am, you submit that. And that's not always easy. But I think submitting and getting over your ego, submit to your family, submit to working hard, all that stuff, I think leads you to just serving people. And I think when you're serving people.
That's true. I like that answer because you were saying husband and father and obviously life, but when you submit to your kids' needs and stuff, it's easier. When you try to fight him, you're like, just go to sleep. But if you go and put in this and understand, it makes it easier. The wife too, you know, both of us are married, and so you submit and you listen and you understand, it actually makes it better. So
when
happy wife?
Yeah, happy life, right? When do you argue with your kids or your wife and that brings peace and happiness? It never does.
Hello, there you go. It's a gold nugget right there. All right, what inspires you to create?
Desperation to have a job? No.
Yeah.
I think really learning how to just add value to people. To be honest with you, I don't really enjoy being in front of the camera. I don't enjoy having to think of stuff to put on video and do all that. But it again comes out of wanting to serve people and help people and show them like, hey, if I can do it and I don't look like a model and I don't have the best voice.
Hey, I have a radio face, bro. And I'm on and I put myself on camera just so you know.
Yeah, and so
I mean, Casey Neistat, love, peace, and happiness, Casey. But I mean, he's got a unique look, and I'm so used to it, you know. And sometimes I'm just like, man, he looks a little rough.
Well, you know what's crazy? The thing I always tell people, and it's crazy because I work mainly with real estate agents.
Yeah.
And you got to be people and go out there and do all this stuff. And I say, hey, go on video. And well, I don't like to because I don't like this angle. I don't like my voice. I say, people already know what you look like. If you got a double chin,
Yeah.
Everybody around you knows it.
Yeah, everyone next that
Accept it.
stands inside of you, they know.
Yep, they see your profile, they everything. So just do it.
Just own it, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you answer that? What inspires you to create?
People.
People. Yeah,
People,
helping
yeah.
adding value to people and stuff. Okay. What do you enjoy doing on your free time? And here's why I asked this, especially in the Failed Podcast, that a lot of people fail and have challenges in life because they ignore themselves.
Yeah.
There's a family, job, and this and that, and they never take time to play golf or do something. You know.
Yeah.
So what do you do for your free time? I think that adds to our mental health, obviously.
Yeah. So again, being a parent and a husband, you don't get a ton of it.
Yeah.
But the two things that I really, really prioritize, man, like religiously, is I like working out. I've lost 30 pounds this year. And so doing that, and then I will watch
in the past week,
6 months.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I wish.
I had to make the New Year's joke.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Last year. I forgot.
I'm joking. This year, whoa.
No, this year I've gained 2 pounds, I think. That and religiously I watch Warriors basketball.
Yeah.
So I don't miss a game, and that's my free
Dude,
time.
I saw a clip of Curry. He was on the other side of the court.
Yeah.
And he shot like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And he shot him like this, like sidearm. He made them all, and then he just walked out. I think he went like to go get a shake or something. I mean, I was like, dude, it was a cool video.
Yeah, it was fake.
No way.
They came out. He made 2 of them.
And so
the rest of them were fake.
What did he do? Repeat it?
I don't know how they did it, but it was for an article for some magazine or something. So they fooled me too. I was like, Curry's the best.
What the heck?
And they came out with a little report like that was fake.
I'm gonna do that same video.
How crazy is that? He's that good that you believed it.
Oh yeah, there was no doubt. Only him.
Yeah.
So okay, here we go. This is a good one. Okay, I think this is very important. What do you think makes a good friend?
Being there. I think that's a really good question. I say that as somebody that doesn't have any friends. Like, I have a lot of acquaintances, a lot of people I work with. I have one friend, my best friend Tanner, who just became a parent of his second kid too. So he's super busy. That baby's fresh. But I think being there for somebody, even me and Tanner will go months without talking. But when one of us needs each other, we're going to call and we'll be there for them. So I think that's the most important thing, is not taking anything personal and being there for that person.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, before we close this off, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you if they want to connect with you. If something you said kind of inspired them, give me a hashtag, a handle, a website. Doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to put it on the description below, but go ahead and give us that plug.
I had to look up my Instagram name. You can find me on Instagram, Cristain Alva 92. No H in Christian, but that'll be written there.
Yeah.
On Facebook, Cristain Alva, and then FST Media on Instagram and Facebook. That is our social media stuff that we do for realtors and all that. And if you are an agent, because I have to plug this, if you're a real estate agent, loan officer, anybody in the real estate industry, I work for Byers and Taylor, fee attorney, for Allegiance Title, so title and escrow. So if you need anything, man, we'd love to add value to your company, to your work, and everything else that you're doing.
And thank you, Cristain, for coming on the Failed Podcast, and thank you to our listeners for their support. Give us a follow, hit the like button, and help us grow by sharing what you're watching. And like I always say, man, just keep your head up. And I know that failures and challenges happen. Keep moving forward, man. Take the next step. Things are going to get brighter, as Cristain shared today. Whenever it was getting dim, something changed, something happened, and things got better. And so just keep your head up, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.